If you want to be a MAGA Republican, and I don't know why you would, but if you do, you got to learn to lie. It is central to their movement. It is what they are all about. And it seems like they love to do it, so much so that now they're just explicitly admitting to their lies, which is exactly what Jesse Watters literally did, shocking his co-host yesterday on Fox, admitting to a lie that he had perpetuated, that he had started, and that Elon Musk has been using to justify the dangerous and illegal actions of Doge. And we are going to get into all of that. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we get into Jesse admitting to this lie, Jasmine Crockett went off on all of MAGA for spreading it deliberately and the systems they use to do so. So before we get to Jesse, let's hear from our favorite member of Congress.
But I will say this, it's also interesting to me that in the first few days of Doge existing, we know that they are trying to get rid of the Department of Education, USAID, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They're laying off FAA workers. They are going after the FDA, the CDC, the HHS, the FBI agents, and they're talking about getting rid of FEMA. And they brought y'all in. And I am going to say that I actually was shocked that there was only one person that seemed like he was an overt Trumper as you laid out your opening remarks, because I anticipated that at least one of y'all would say, yes, what Elon is doing is exactly what we would prescribe. But instead, I will applaud you because you actually were focused. You talked about what the American people are looking for us to do. We've actually consistently on this side of the aisle promoted this idea of making investments into technology so that we can do things such as, say, look at the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense that takes up approximately, 50% of our discretionary income, or our discretionary spending. Approximately 50% goes to Department of Defense. Department of Defense has not been able to pass an audit in the last 6 audits, and we're not talking about pennies. I understand that we want everything to be perfect, and if we could get all waste, fraud, and abuse out, that would be fantastic. But let me talk about the big numbers. The big numbers are on that side. When we look at, say, our entire workforce, our federal workforce, as we're trying to somehow fire all of them, they don't even make up a total of 5%. It's even less than that when we look at our budget. But let's talk about defense. That just happens to be the same side of the ledger that Mr. Musk gets the vast majority of his money from. In fact, at the same time that they were unlawfully, and we will stay in court, because on this side, we believe in law and order. We believe in, a number of us are actually lawyers, but nevertheless, we understand the Constitution. We believe in that as well. And so there's things such as, impoundment, right? Because as Mr. Whitson said, he said, we need to return the power of the purse to Congress. It never left. According to the Constitution, that's where it's at. Now, I know that people are confused right now because for whatever reason, we had a guy that went in, and you talk about people invading our data. Listen, people said that they were upset about TikTok, but I'm upset about the guy that runs Twitter, who for sure is doing nefarious things, because I don't understand, if you are trying to conduct audits and figure out where the waste, fraud, and abuse is, I don't know why you would go to some tech guy. In fact, it was only techies that were sitting there at inauguration. We didn't have auditors. I would welcome auditors to come in and do forensic audits. In fact, he sat there in the Oval Office yesterday and he admitted that he was lying, and he was using his propaganda machine to do it when he said that we sent millions of dollars to Gaza for condoms. That was a lie. So let me tell you something.
The gentlelady's time has expired. The gentlelady's time has expired.
And rein in this rogue actor known as
the gentlelady's time has expired. I now.
So this is the lie that we have heard so much from MAGA, from Trump, from Elon, from Fox, that Joe Biden personally was sending $50 million in condoms to Hamas. That's what Joe Biden was doing. He was personally packing up the boxes, throwing some cash in there, even though programs similar to these, of course, what Elon is citing, what Jesse came up with, is a complete lie. These same things happen, similar to them, of course, not the exact lie, happened under the Trump presidency. I never heard a word about that. There's no accountability there. But sure, this has always been a lie. So much so that Jesse Waters was happy to just admit that it was a lie, live on air right here.
And yeah, whatever Jesse says, I mean, maybe we'll find out next week that it's, you know, as true as the condoms to Gaza. But there's real stuff and stories you could be. Oh, cool.
I did.
Okay, so he made that up. Don't bother fact checking it. It was made up.
Now, I don't know how Jessica deals with Jesse on a day-to-day basis and kind of handles herself so well. But you could see even there, she was in a state of shock that he would just admit it. But it's part of the game for them. They don't actually care. They know that truth doesn't matter. They know it's all about narratives and feelings, which is something that honestly I think we need to play into more as Democrats. We need to stop focusing on the very explicit facts, on the policy briefs, on the statements to the press. Like, we need to rely more on feelings. We need to talk more in narratives. We need to speak to people in ways that like hit close to home, not kind of this broader, very fact-based pitch on why we are better, because of course we are, but we need to play in those narratives and those feelings that unfortunately Republicans always win on. And one of those that we can be very, very clear on, and people are already getting tired of, is Elon Musk and Doge and his army of Dogebags. And someone who did a great job talking about that and the real purpose behind Elon's agency of government efficiency was Rachel Maddow right here.
This weekend, USA Today reports that 20 people in the Office of Neurological and Physical Medicine Devices at the FDA were just fired. Perhaps coincidentally, that is the unit at the FDA that was investigating Elon Musk's company, the company that he owns that wants to graft computer chips onto people's brains. People doing that oversight work for Elon Musk's company are just fired at the FDA. And on that point, on that story, here's the thing we're seeing over and over again now. Quote, the dismissal letters sent to FDA reviewers cited performance reasons, even though these employees had no issues on their prior performance and had received top-notch rankings several weeks ago, according to 2 sources familiar with the matter. So they're being told they're being fired for performance reasons, but there's nothing in any of their performance reviews that would support that. In fact, quite the contrary. We're seeing that at FDA, where they fired people who were in charge of regulating the computer chips Elon Musk wants to graft into your brain. We're also seeing similar reports in the firings of the National Nuclear Security Administration folks. People being told they're being fired for poor performance, even though there's nothing in their performance review history that would suggest any poor performance. Same thing is happening among people being fired at USDA and at the Department of Education and at the U.S. Forest Service and at the VA and at the Small Business Administration and at the Department of Transportation. NBC News reviewed documentation there that shows people being fired supposedly for performance reasons had just received, quote, exceptional performance reviews. And so I don't know if the pattern here seems as obvious to everybody as it does to me, but it seems to me like it's a pattern, right? There was no $50 million in condoms for Gaza that Hamas used to make their bombs. There are no 150-year-old Americans getting Social Security checks. The Reuters news agency did not get a government contract to deceive the public. The government does not fund the New York Times or Politico to produce positive stories about Democrats. The U.S. government does not pay for celebrity junkets to Ukraine. That was literally Russian propaganda. And the U.S. government is not right now trying to fire hundreds of thousands of people who work in the U.S. government because they've all had bad performance reviews. This isn't happening. One way to tell when somebody doesn't actually have a good reason for what they're doing is when every reason they give you for that thing is very obviously made up. None of the things they're saying about why they need to do these mass, and in many cases, apparently illegal firings, holds up once you put it up to the light. But they're going ahead. They're now firing the people who work at the CDC on bird flu, as bird flu becomes a massive multi-state epidemic affecting tens of millions of animals in America and increasingly people. They have now stopped all of the programs in Mexico run by the State Department's Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement. What do these programs in Mexico do for the State Department's Bureau of International Narcotics Law Enforcement? What do they do? Oh, that's the part of the U.S. government that tries to stop the supply chain for fentanyl coming into this country. All of their actions have been stopped. They've now started firing people at the part of HHS that funds childcare and Head Start. They are firing the people who work at Gettysburg. They are firing the people who work at Shenandoah National Park in Virginia. And, I asked a minute ago, like, who voted for this? Maybe you don't care about any of those things that I just mentioned. Maybe you only care about stopping immigration, about making immigration restriction work like lightning, making that the most important and top priority thing that the U.S. government does, go fast, get people out of here. Maybe that's your motivation. I don't know. I think it might be for some people who voted for Trump, right? If so, please consider that Trump is also now firing immigration judges in large numbers with no explanation and no notice. With more than 3 million immigration cases backlogged in the system, they are firing the judges who handle those cases, which will grind the system further to a halt. Because efficiency. Tonight, the Washington Post is reporting, and NBC News has confirmed, that whatever Trump has sent Elon Musk's people to do at the Social Security Administration, it was apparently alarming enough to the career official running that agency right now that she resigned. Quote, the acting commissioner of the Social Security Administration left her job this weekend after a clash with Elon Musk's U.S. Doge service over its attempts to access sensitive government records. Again, that's sensitive government records at Social Security. This follows a story also broken this weekend by the Washington Post that Elon Musk is also trying to access the most sensitive individual tax records that are maintained by the IRS. But I also have to note, and I kind of can't believe this, but for the 5th time since Donald Trump was sworn in just 4 weeks ago, we are also tonight watching developments in yet another plane crash.
It was never about efficiency. It was never about trimming the fat, cutting the waste, as they like to say. No, it's about serving Donald Trump's interest. It was about serving Elon Musk's interest. It was about instilling the intimidation factor that is so key to what Donald Trump wants to do. And that is make himself even more of a dictator than he already has become in the first 4 weeks of his presidency. That's what it's about. And that is what we have to be talking about. And we are going to on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And if you want to hang out with the show, not on YouTube, other platforms, the link to follow me on Instagram, where I'm doing a lot of posting, is in the description of this video. And until next time, I'll see you soon.